So we have been restoring and repairing and race preparing cars for many years, and the business has evolved, has to evolve because things change, the world changes, the car industry changes. So today we're still doing repairs, still doing restoration, not much race prep at the moment because of the COVID, and then a lot of revival builds, a lot of parts manufacturing, a lot of engine shop building. So we build engines for all sorts of people, mainly Ferrari engines, but not limited to that. We make a lot of new engines, so a lot of manufacturing, and we manufacture lots of components. Pretty much everything on a Ferrari 250 we would make internally, all the suspension. That's the kind of focus of our business now, is more manufacturing and revival cars. We still love restorations, but unfortunately the cars simply aren't being used at the same level. And when they are used, they usually go on a concours lawn, not going into an event or a racetrack. So we've had to slightly alter the business model just to make sure we keep it going. So from here we go out from the back of the reception straight into the engine and unit shop, which is where we rebuild old engines and make and build new engines. So there's quite a high amount of that going on. We sell a lot of engines a year, and then you move through that and go into what we call the transmission department. So there's transaxles, rear axles, gearboxes in there. And then the other side of that, or into the next room, is a automatic cleaning area with a small machine shop which only services the engine shop and transaxle shop. That's all it does. And then from there we'll generally go into the QC room, which is where we've got a CAD office and also a QC department, which are kind of linked to each other. So obviously we draw the stuff gets made, and then it comes back to QC for inspection. And we measure it on a CMM machine and check the drawings, on digitally. So it's kind of, we try and eliminate as many problems as we can. And we actually check all the stuff we buy in. If we buy a part in, we'll still QC it, because you don't want to be fitting it on the car a month later and then you've got a problem then. And then from there, we'll generally go to the main workshop. And the interest of the main workshop has got a parts department. Well, there's kind of goods in and out there, but then there's a big parts department with a huge mixture of parts. So it's new old stock. It's brand new parts we've made. It's old stock we bought over many years, and we bought some things that are pretty stupid, but they're quite nice things. And then there's an office there, so there's a parts office, which is where our sales team is and our procurement team, and that's a pretty busy section. Then through that is the main car workshop with the car repairs, restorations, and new car build. It's all in one workshop, simply because, well, it's simpler for us to do, but also there's a lot of overlap between the different departments, so it works really well for us. And then through the other side of that, we go into the machine shop, which is obviously where the parts are machined and made. So there's a lot of raw castings in there, some CNC machines, there's some, the parts manager, the workshop manager, machine shop manager has been with me for a long time, and then he runs that department. And then from there we would go into the fab shop, where we make all the oil pipes, water pipes, fuel rails, exhausts, fuel tanks, all those kind of different things that are made out of sheet or tube rather than machined castings. So then they kind of overlap as well. So I think our parts department is not really about revival cars, it's about original cars. And we service a very international customer base doing that, including complete engines, complete gearboxes. We get a lot of rebuild work from places like Asia. So they'll do the whole car, but they'll send us we've just done a complete restoration without having the body and chassis here from actually a garage or a colleague in Hong Kong. And that kind of thing we're trying to really push as well, because it's what we're really good at. So I think that's kind of the way it's worked out.
It was pure coincidence. I didn't come from automotive background. I came from an aviation background, but I came here initially as an office manager and have just basically grown. I now work closely with Mark, so we do a lot of sort of operational business strategy, that kind of thing, business development. So we deal with a lot of the external relationships to the business and look at growth and how we can sort of take potential opportunities, grow, and yeah, it's an interesting role.
I mean, certainly in the last over a year now, you know, there's been so little events, which we all love the events, and we love the concourse, we love the tours, we love all those things. But when these things sort of start to not be there, the business has to have another revenue stream, and I think we were very, very well placed to do that. So in the last year, we've seen a big increase in that sort of manufacturing sales of rival cars, and it's kind of just, I wouldn't say it's happened automatically because there's been a lot of action and work making it happen, but it's been quite rewarding to see how we've managed to make that transformation. From my point of view, it's more about manufacturing, making maybe some new products, spreading it into other areas of the industry, and maybe even doing something slightly outside the auto industry. I think that's where I see the continuation of the business. We'd always do cars, for sure, and we'd always have a car base, but I think the volume of work, and if you want to move forward in the business, which you always have to, I think we're going to want to go more into manufacturing. I think now there's a real blend here of kind of old school knowledge and craftsmanship with actually also embracing technology. I think it's all about small successes, and we've done some really quite tricky restorations where the car there was not much of it, and we had to kind of dream up the rest of the car because it just simply, you know, it didn't exist. We did a couple of single seaters like that, and we've done some Jeep, you know, obviously some sports cars, and I think the 50 sports racing cars are a very sweet spot for us because you know you don't want someone you can only show. I just think it's so important that the cars are used. Manufacturing has always been a growth area of this business and something I enjoy doing, it excites me, and I've always had this kind of feeling that it'd be nice to make my own engine and maybe a car, and then we kind of, it's sort of been in the back of my mind for a while. Then a couple of years ago, we were at Riyadh, the two of us, and the car show, the first car show, which we helped them set up. And there was a singer there, a Porsche singer, and Shane and I were looking around and said, Mark, we have to do one of these, something like this with Ferrari. So I was like, okay. So we got home and it kind of started from there. We started talking about it and we got some sketches done and we did a kind of scrapbook of ideas, not only Ferrari, but all the cars that I've always liked and admired, the sort of different styling cues. And we got a designer involved to help us. And actually during lockdown, whilst it was a pretty miserable time, we spent a lot of time on it because, you know, a lot of the activity here was very slow because although we did good sales, the service and restoration and obviously event support was non-existent. So it gave us an opportunity which we grabbed with both hands to really push that forwards. So that's kind of how that happened. So it's basically a sub 1 ton car with a new V12 engine in it, which we're designing and developing right now, which is fairly advanced. I think that'll be locked down in probably 3 months, at which point we go into manufacturing. And that's a really exciting part of the whole project because, like a lot of people have said before, it's not anything original that I'm saying, but I think the engine is at the heart of the car. And then it'll have an element of carbon in the bodywork and an element of aluminium. So we're mixing the two because A, we think it's the right way to do it, but B, it's quite a nice story to tell. If you just go to a carbon car, it feels a little bit of a big step. And then everything else is obviously new. We're going to put a transaxle in it rather than a gearbox, so move the weight to the back. An all new suspension. I must say everything's different. It'll be quite powerful, but not ridiculously powerful because it's light. It's more important that the car's light. If you drive a light car that's not that powerful, it's a lot more fun than a heavy car. It's very powerful.
So all of the externals, we've sort of looked at all the drawings, the renderings, and now we're looking at the wheels and the tyres, and it's down to like tyre size, what size is better for the car, wheel design, and we almost feel like we're sort of going around in circles on that right now. So, but it's all interesting, it's all fun. Yeah. Even interiors as well. So we've been looking at interiors and just trying to get a mood board together on interiors, on different aspects of the car. But that's much harder than we thought it would be. But again, exciting.
It'll be completely different, and I think it'll look completely different. One of the things you want to do now is to make a full-size model, and we'll put it next to an original short wheelbase car and just compare the two, and it's going to be an interesting. I mean, you can look at things on the screen, you can get them both up in CAD, you can do all those things, but actually physically seeing something is a much more powerful way of looking at it. There's not a single part that carries over. It's completely new, and there's the only thing that carries over is some very small bits of chassis pieces that we wanted to reuse, but everything else is new. Most of the people who've inquired about the Moderna are not existing customers. They're new people, most of them we've never heard of, which is really interesting and good for us, because you always want to spread your demographic and your clientele and even the different age group and all those things. So I think that's been a kind of we didn't exactly expect it, but it's been a really successful part of it.
And I think it's exciting to actually have a GTO branded car, and we'll just keep growing from there.